I promise you it won't be a part 38, though. It won't be a part 38, but I can't promise it won't be a part 28. Nah, Sakoni like, But we are in the Law series. This is part 6, Letter in the Spirit. We have gone through many parts so far, just breaking down this concept. And I'll repeat a few of the things, but I won't go through all 5 previous teachings because we'll be here till next Shabbat. So what we'll do is just kind of go through very quickly some of the concept so that we are all on that same page, and then we'll move forward into the next piece. And so notice again, so we'll do this little quick recap here, but notice again that I did not say spirit versus letter, which is a normal concept we think of, or the spirit of the law or the letter of the law, the spirit of the Torah or the letter of the Torah. Which are you under? Which are we bound to? Well, this is to help us to understand that there is not an either or. They're not in competition, so we're not going to say the spirit versus the letter. And it's not a smorgasbord of just pick what you want. So it's not the letter or the spirit, but we're going to address the letter and the spirit. There's something to be gotten from both aspects. First piece, again, this is the part of the recap. So I will ask you guys, because I know that you guys know the answer already, so I'll ask you what each of these are. So when we look at how are you being prepared, what is that addressing? What is that addressing? The spirit of the law or the letter of the law? That's addressing the letter. How are you being prepared? So it's things that we are told to do or things we're told not to do, and it's preparing us in some way. And it's preparing us for something greater than just that thing, the surface level, just what's right there at face value. There's something else that you're being prepared for. But the preparation is important as well. So that's like if you're an athlete, practice. That's going to practice. That's going to workouts. That's going to the gym. That's going to, getting your shots up if you're playing basketball, or getting kicks if you're kicker on the football team, or getting some throws if you're the quarterback, whatever it is. But then sometimes you're actually doing things that are not like direct that thing. You're not playing a football game, but you're doing this one exercise to practice muscle memory, just to get you used to doing that thing. That's how you are being prepared. The next piece is what? What is the embedded purpose? Which is that apply to? That's the spirit. That's the spirit of the law. That is helping you to understand the embedded purpose. What is at the heart of this thing, of this command, of this law, of this teaching? What is it that you are being not just prepared to do, but in this case, what is being implanted in you? What is the ultimate goal? What is the embedded purpose? All right. And so we went through some examples of what that might look like. Just kind of looking at, okay, this is the thing that you're being told, but what is the ultimate goal of this thing? And the example that I used before was like with a car driving. You hit a stop sign. The practice, the letter is that you stop at the stop sign, but the embedded purpose is to keep you safe. So to not run into oncoming traffic, there's a stop sign right there. So if the stop sign is in a place where you can't safely see whether it's safe to proceed or not, you need to go beyond just the letter to understand it's right here, but I'm going to move forward just enough where I can what? See clearly. Because the goal is not to just stop at the stop sign and then go. The goal is to stop at the stop sign to allow you to proceed when it's safe to do so. And so let's see, I'm not going to go through everything, but I will go through this because some of this is what we touched on within the first couple of teachings, and I have not gone back to this portion. So I do want to touch back on this foundation of James chapter 1 first. All right, so we're going to start first in James chapter 1. James chapter 1, we're going to read verses 21 through 27. James chapter 1, verse 21 through 27. And it reads, "Therefore put away all filthiness and overflow of evil, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your lives. And become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." Verse 23 says, "Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks in his face in a mirror, his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and immediately forgets what he was like. But he who looked into the perfect Torah, that of freedom, and continues in it, not becoming a hearer that forgets, but a doer of work, this one shall be blessed in his doing of the Torah. If anyone among you thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this one's religion is worthless." It's not worth anything. Verse 27, "Clean and undefiled religion before the Elohim and the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world," to keep oneself unstained from the world. And so that implanted word, that is so critical, that it is embedded in our hearts and in our minds. And it is creating what we were talking about earlier with some of that muscle memory. So you do this thing, and here's something that we have to remember. The preparation doesn't always mimic the exact activity. It doesn't always mimic the exact activity. When somebody is practicing, for example, let's just say the keyboard. When somebody is practicing their scales, there's very few songs where you just play scales. But you're practicing the scales to help with your muscle memory, to help with your finger dexterity, to help with your clarity as you go across, to help with finger strength. Those are the things that are being built up. That's like that implanted word. So sometimes we get caught up on, well, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that, or why Yahweh told us we couldn't eat that, or why he told us we couldn't do that, or why we got to do it then. What we don't understand is it is being implanted in us for a reason. It is being implanted in us for a reason, and we have to trust that he knows what he's doing. And what is it there to do? Save our lives. We don't know when that moment comes. Y'all know my favorite example I like to use with Daniel's son in the Karate Kid, and he learned all of this kind of stuff and didn't even know he was learning it. But it being implanted in him, waxing the car and sanding the floor and painting the fence, all of that stuff taught him stuff he didn't know he was being taught. And then when the real thing happened, it was implanted already. So that muscle memory starts to kick in because it was implanted, and it's there to save lives. Be hearers only, hearers only deceive themselves. Hearers can get stuck in, I know that. Oh, yeah. You know it, but do you do it? It's not good enough to know something. Or, I ain't missed the Shabbat. Okay, but did you absorb anything that was given at Shabbat? or you just there? You a brick in water. Ain't no absorption happening. And why? Because hearers are only deceiving themselves because you ain't fooling nobody else around you. And it talks about looking in the mirror and immediately forgetting. Immediately forgetting, because you're not attached to it. It's not attached to you. When it's not implanted, then, it's like it says, it's like looking in the mirror and then looking away. You already done forgot. It's funny. People probably know what you look like more than you do. That's because we wear our own face. And it's the other people looking at us. They're more familiar with our faces than we are. And then we have continue in the perfect Torah. Continue in the perfect Torah. That it requires a continuation. Not just a familiarity. Not just a knowing. Not just a being, oh yeah, I kind of heard that before. But it requires a continuation. It requires us to continue. So let's see. And again, I'm not going to go through everything, but some of this I do want to go back to. So letter is important and plays a pivotal role to learning the Spirit. We have to remember that piece. The letter helps us to train so that the Spirit can be fulfilled. So it is important not to cheat the letter to try to attempt to fast track your way to the Spirit. And sometimes that's what we like to do. We like to go to the deep level. And I just need to know how this relates to this. And I just need to. But wait a minute. Are we walking out the simple thing? What it said do, are we doing that? Because when we overcomplicate things sometimes, we can forget about and jump over the basic principles that are really there to train us and to teach us and to lead us to the spirit of that thing. And so let's read this chapter, these few verses, and then we're going to jump. Okay? And so we started here, and again, we did this with the earlier teaching, but I do want to go back, and then we'll get right into the newest content. All right, so 1 Corinthians chapter 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12 through 15. And it reads, all is permitted me, but not all do profit. All is permitted me, but I shall not be under authority of any. Foods for the stomach, and the stomach for foods. But Elohim shall destroy both it and them. And the body is not for whoring, but the master, and the master for the body. And Elohim, who raised up the master, shall also raise us up through his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Messiah? Shall I then take the members of Messiah and make them members of a whore? Let it not be. And then 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. Now we'll jump down to 19 and read 19 and 20. And it says, or do you not know that your body is the dwelling place of the set-apart Spirit who is in you, which you have from Elohim, and you are not your own, for you were bought with a price. Therefore esteem Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which are of Elohim. Which are of Elohim. So that first little stint there, all is permitted me. Can you do it? Yeah. Can you eat it? Yeah. Can you go? Yeah. Can you be involved with that person? Sure. Can you say, all is permitted me, but not all profit. What does a business do? When they want to figure out how to be more profitable, they start cutting out waste. Where are we wasteful? They start hiring firms, external firms, come in and do an analysis. We need to be more profitable. So yeah, we can waste all of this money and we can spend the enormous amounts of money, but I'm going to tell you what they want to see. It's a very simple calculation. Well, it's simple on an Excel spreadsheet. But it's a simple calculation that's used called net present value. If I put this money out today, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, what's my return? What's the net present value. So if I put it out today, was it worth it? If I look back to today from 5 years from now, from 10 years from now, from 20 years from now, is there a benefit? That's it. So we got to think like that. We got to stop doing stuff just because we can. Yahweh gave us all the answers to the test. Like he gave us the answers to the test. So instead of us making up stuff and being like, oh, well, it feels all right, so I'll keep doing it. All is permitted me, but not all profit. Ask yourself, is this thing profiting me? Is this thing profiting me? Or is this thing stopping me from being profitable? And so, as we stopped on last time, we went through the commands, and we looked at we went through the commands, and we've been looking at each one and looking at how we're being prepared and what the embedded purpose is. And so where we stopped last time was with children, honor your father and your mother. And just to touch a little bit on that we talked about children. Obedience training is not just for pets. So with parents, we have to learn how to train our children to be obedient. At young ages, we have to start embedding this in them. Because what we know is that if they let our hand go and run, they're going straight for stuff that's moving and shiny. And when there's a street close by, what's moving and shiny? Cars. And so we know that they have to stay safe by just being obedient to us. And what do we tell our kids? Hold my hand. Don't let go. I'm going to tell you how I trained my kids. I didn't train my kids by me holding their hand. I trained my kids by them holding mine. So I would just one finger. Look at them. They laughing because they remember. And so that's all I would do. I walk up to them, and I go like this. And yep, see, they know, grab that finger. And if they even think about loosening that grip, so that way they were attaching themselves to me. So when I go, they go. If I'm over here, they're over here. They're not about to run out in that street, even though they might want to. That grip start loosening up. And I got all my other fingers. I start tapping on that hand, and they like, oh, shoot. Man, I wanted to go over there and pet that dog. Why is he? But that's the thing. You start to train your child to be obedient because they don't understand what's good for them quite yet. They don't understand what's keeping them safe quite yet. They don't understand where the danger is quite yet. And it's up to us to embed first that obedience, because I've got to keep you safe before I can educate you. I got to get you to 6 so I can teach you all about this other stuff. I got to get you to 12 so I can impart all of this other stuff. I got to get you to 18 so I can now let you grow your wings a little bit and teach you even more. I got to get you there. But for now, no, you can't go there. But why not? Trust me. Just trust me. So now some of these conversations that I can have with Ephraim, I can say, you remember we were talking about XYZ? Let me tell you what's behind that. Let me explain to you why I say that. But I got to get you there. I got to get you there first. And, it don't stop there. It ain't all on the kids. It ain't all on the kids. Parents, remember we looked at that word for honor. And where it says honor your mother and your father, or respect your father and your mother is what it says. Remember, we looked at that word, and it is the word kavod. And it's the same word very close to the word for kavod, which means glory. And kavod also means heaviness, weight. And so that is it. You are giving weight to the instruction of your parents. You are giving weight as a child, giving weight. I'm not just taking what you say with a grain of salt. I'm not just taking it and snapping my teeth and turning my head and going on about my business. I'm not going in my room and saying, whatever, I ain't doing none of that. Give weight to what your parents and how they instruct you. But then here's the question for the parents. Are you worth the wait? Are you worth the wait? Are you properly instructing? Are you properly training? Are you using wisdom in guiding your children? Colossians 3:21, I'll read that real quick, really short. Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged. We have to be careful not to provoke our children. We got to be careful not to push them away. We got to be careful not to turn them away from the Most High. Oh, I can't stand this. I can't stand going there. Nothing's ever right. Or I'm never having fun. Or this is so boring. Or this is that. Whatever it is, we have to remember that our children need to delight. We want them to be reminded constantly that being in the ways of the Most High is a benefit to you, not a weight. It's nothing wrong with that. And then we looked at how ultimately what's happening here is we are as children. How often in the scripture are we referred to as the children of Israel? How often are we referred to in that manner? We are children to the Most High. And with him, we have to know that we don't know it all. We ain't got it all figured out. We are the little 5-year-old who wants to eat ice cream for dinner. That's us. We're adults, so we think we got it all figured. But guess what, y'all? We are the children, and that's why Mashiach said in Matthew 18, he said, these children, if you don't come like them, then you're the one that's going to be messed up. Verse 3 says, truly I say to you, unless you turn and become as little children, you shall by no means enter the reign of the heavens. And whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the reign of the heavens. We, adults, parents, we all have to become like children. That's our job. That's what's being taught to us. That's what's being embedded in us, and that is what's happening because we are called his firstborn. That's what he told Pharaoh. He says, say to Pharaoh, Israel is my firstborn, my son. And so that's where we're at. So now we're going to go into Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. And this says, you do not murder. You do not murder. And the word for murder is H7523. Razak. I think I'm saying that right. Razak. And it means to murder, slay, kill, assassinate, properly to dash in pieces. Properly to dash in pieces. So this is one of the more obvious ones for the commands. And we shouldn't take nobody's life, especially in cold blood. But there's some other things that I want us to kind of think of and understand even with this command. Number one thing is understand that death is a judgment. And it says, and Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in that day you eat of that tree, in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. You shall certainly die. Now, this was the judgment for breaking that command. It was, eat of this tree, and you will surely die. Let's take a look at Deuteronomy 1:16 and 17, and then we're going to come back and we'll talk about a little something here. But judgment should be in line with the law. So, in other words, you shouldn't be able to enforce a penalty that's outside of that law. So, if somebody steals something, is the penalty for stealing death? No. What's the penalty for stealing? I'm talking about Torah. I ain't talking about random stuff. You got to repay, add 20%, 1/5. You return back to that person and add 20% of what you have taken, right? And so you can't kill a person and be like, oh, well, you stole my apple and now you got to die. That's not the correct judgment. And so let's take a look real quick, Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. And it says, and I commanded your judges at that time, saying, when hearing between your brothers, judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger who is with you, or with him. Verse 17, do not show partiality in right ruling. Hear the small as well as the great. Do not be afraid of anyone's face, for the right ruling belongs to Elohim. And the case which is too hard for you, bring it to me, and I shall hear it. So again, death really is a judgment. We think about death as kind of a natural part of life, but no, it's not. At least it wasn't. It's a judgment. Disobedience brought death. Disobedience brought death. The wages of sin is death. And so this is a judgment, which again means you should not use this judgment out of place. This should not be used out of place. So now we find ourselves in a place where if somebody is thought to be doing something wrong, this judgment might be used. This is a judgment that has been being used, especially in a time where people are intimidated of other people. Because of who I am, because of what I look like, now you feel like your life is in danger, whether I've done something against you or not. And so we have in different places, in different scenarios where people will lose their life for, in some cases, not doing anything. And in other cases, not being guilty of a crime that's punishable by death. And so there's something that is happening here, because then you might say, well, what about there are so many times where the Most High himself orders somebody to be killed. Does that break the, that fifth, am I right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth command? So let's take a look. Fair judgment. Fair judgment. Ezekiel 18. And let me see. Trying to think if I was going to read down through the whole thing. I'm going to read the whole thing. I'll try to read fast. Y'all know when I say I'm going to read fast, I just mean as fast as I can read. I can't read that fast. So this might not be your fast, but it's about to be my fast. All right. So Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 20 through 32. And again, keep in mind, fair judgment. Judgment used properly. There's some place we're going to go with this. Verse 20. The being who sins shall die. The Son shall not bear the crookedness of the Father, nor the Father bear the crookedness of the Son. The righteousness of the righteous is upon himself, and the wrongness of the wrong is upon himself. But the wrong, if he turns from all his sins which he has done, and he shall guard all my laws, and shall do right ruling and righteousness, he shall certainly live, he shall not die. Verse 22, all the transgressions which he has done shall not be remembered against him. In his righteousness that he has done, he shall live. I'm going to pause right there. I thought grace didn't happen until the cross. Ain't that what they've been telling us? I mean, I've heard even as recently as last week that this is the dispensation of grace. That once Messiah died, now we're under grace. Does this look like grace to y'all? I mean, this looks like somebody done did wrong, done turned from their ways, and as a result of their righteousness, verse 22 says, I will not even remember. I will not even remember. And as a result, the judgment that you deserve, being death, is taken off the table. And they tell me grace didn't happen until the cross. So verse 23, have I any pleasure in the death of the wrong, declares the master? Yahweh is not that, is it not that he should turn from his ways and live? That's what he desires. He desires for us to turn from our ways and live. He doesn't want to impute that judgment of death on us. He doesn't want that. Verse 24. Verse 24. But when a righteous one turns away from his righteousness and does unrighteousness according to all the abominations that the wrong one has done, shall he live? All his righteousness which he has done shall not be remembered. For his trespass which he has committed, and for his sin which he has committed, for them he shall die. I guess that kills once saved, always saved. And we just killing all kind of doctrines right here. Verse 25 says, and you said, the way of Yahweh is not right. Hear now, O house of Israel, is my way not right? Is it not your ways that are not right? When a righteous one turns away from his righteousness and does unrighteousness, he dies in it. It is because of his unrighteousness, which he has done, that he dies. And when the wrong turns away from the wrong which he has done, and he does right ruling and righteousness, and he keeps himself alive, because he sees and turns away from all the transgressions which he has done, he shall certainly live, he shall not die. And the house of Israel have said, the way of Yahweh is not right. Are right, O house of Israel, you, O house of Israel, everywhere, everyone according to his ways, declares the master Yahweh. Repent and turn back from all your transgressions, and let not crookedness be a stumbling block to you. Cast away from you all the transgressions by which you have transgressed, and make for yourselves a new heart. Make for yourselves a new heart. Make for yourselves a new heart and a new spirit. For why should you die, O house of Israel? For I have no pleasure in the death of one who dies, declares the master Yahweh. So turn back and what? Live. So he don't want you to kill yourself either. When he says you do not murder, he doesn't want you to kill yourself either. And we're not just talking about graveyard dead. Because that's where everybody, you kind of think, oh yeah, you dead, you in the graveyard. But death comes in different forms. Death comes in different forms. Let's just take one little quick look at Exodus chapter 31 and 14. This is just one witness of many. We can be here all day long, but I'm going to just use this one witness for us, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of these different forms. And it says, "And you shall guard the Sabbath, for it is set apart to you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death. For anyone who does work on it, that being shall be" what? Cut off from among his people. This is a introduction of a definition of death other than the graveyard. Being cut off is a form of death. Being cut off. It was not always when he said to cut them off did he mean to put them into the ground and to kill them and put them into the ground. But it was separate them. Send them out. Disconnect from them. And so when I go back to what we looked at in the previous, in Ezekiel chapter 18, this person, we, being that we have the opportunity, if we are in unrighteousness, to turn to righteousness. Because at the end of the day, do not murder yourselves off. What separates us from the Most High? Your sin has separated you from me, has caused this distance to take place, in that I don't hear you. I don't know you. This is why you get to Messiah saying, there are many who are going to come in that day. Oh, I did this and I did that and I did that. Running down their whole list. And he says what? Depart from me. I knew you not, you worker of lawlessness. I don't know you. In other words, you're dead. You don't have to be in the graveyard to be dead. You are separated. And y'all, sometimes we have to, especially like this time we've come through, time of unleavened bread, where we had to start to evaluate that leaven. We had to start digging into those closets and those cabinets and pulling out that stove and pulling out that, what's the bread maker thing? Toaster, yeah. had to pull out the air fryer. Had to pull that stuff out, right? And what was the challenge for us to do while we're doing that? While we're checking all of the ingredients, what? Looking in the cabinets and the corners of our minds and our hearts. Pulling out the leaven. Searching for the leaven. Trying to find, what is it in me? What do you want to get rid of in me? What is it in me that's puffing up? That's raising up? That's causing what? Separation. What is it that's causing separation? Because those are the things that lead to us being cut off. Those are the things that we've got to identify to avoid murdering. Because again, we can murder ourselves. We can take ourselves away. We can cut ourselves off. We can render or cause the Most High to render on us the proper judgment of death. But what is it that we desire? What is it that he desires? He desires for us to live. He says, I have no pleasure in one who dies. I don't get anything out of you dying. He desires a relationship with us. He desires closeness with us. So we got to start by remembering this, that grace that exists in that verse, Ezekiel 18 and 22, that says, all the transgressions which he has done shall not be remembered against him. In his righteousness that he has done, for that you live. For that we experience closeness. For that we experience oneness. Now we can get to the book of John, chapter 15, 16, all of those 17, where Messiah is bringing together this oneness. First starts off talking about being a vine connected, and he's praised to the Most High and says, make them one as we are one. Closeness, a closeness. And y'all, the other thing is, we can murder without ever picking up a gun, a knife, or anything. Sometimes all we did was wiggle our tongue. And we have killed, we have murdered our brother by the things we say, by the things that we do toward each other. This is a way that we can murder, because it's not just about the graveyard. Well, I ran you down in the ground, and your confidence is nothing, and you think you're worth nothing, and every ambition you ever had is gone, but I ain't kill him, so come on. We got to be careful in how we interact with each other. We should be speaking life. And sometimes, even going back to the last time, are you worth the wait? For our children, we got to be careful. Speak life to our children. We don't want to be always speaking negative and speaking down to, and these are the things. Yes, Lashon Hara is real. The evil tongue is real. And it falls under this: do not murder. Do not murder. Does that mean do not correct? No. Does that mean do not be honest? Do not render proper judgment? No. I can tell you, bro, you're wrong. And here's why. But correction can come out of love, not a desire. Because the Most High says what? I will allow you to make your bed in the pits of hell. I will allow it. But I'm telling you, I don't want you to. He wants us to live. He wants us to walk righteously. He wants us to be close. And so we have got a part in this thing. We've got a part in this thing. So I'll go ahead and bring it in right there. Again, just do not murder. It's more than just pulling the trigger. It's more than just being in the graveyard. But there's also the aspect of being separated. Are we cut off? Are you cutting off? Now, rendering fair judgment when it's necessary is appropriate. But rendering unfair puts you definitely in contempt of the Torah. Hallelujah.